Okay guys, so I wanted to show you how I went ahead and set up my axes for my scatter plot. Have my horizontal and my vertical. Put sugar on the horizontal axis because it's the explanatory variable and I labeled its units. And then I put calories on the vertical axis because it's the response variable. And then I just kind of took a look at the data to check out my scale, but I could also do this once I already have seen the scatter plot on StatDisk. So I noticed that the lowest number of sugar, I think, is 45. 44. So I started at 40. And I have this little squiggly line here to indicate that my scale wouldn't match up with this being 0. So there's some other values that I left out that just aren't relevant here. It's not that important, but that's why it's there. And then I tried to keep a consistent scale. Even though I don't have sugar values for all of these, I want to keep that consistent scale. All right, then on the calories, I went up 100 to 800 because I think the highest calorie I see is 790. All right, so let's go ahead and go to statdisk.org. So that's what I've got here. And I entered the data for sugar in column 1 and the data for calories in column 2. And now I'm going to go ahead and come and click up here on data. That's what it tells me to do. Data, there we go. What's going on? There we go. Okay, clicking on data, and then the directions tell me to choose scatter plot down here. So I'm choosing scatter plot. All right, now it gives me a couple more options. It asks what the X value should be. I'm going to choose column 1 because that's sugar. What the Y value should be. I'm going to choose column 2 because that's the calories. And again, we want the explanatory variable to be on the horizontal axis or to be on the x-axis. Then our plot options, we could give it a name if we wanted to, and we could give the X and Y a name. If you were really doing this, I don't know, say to present to someone, you would want to label them with the variable. So this is sugar in grams, and then the Y label should be calories. All right, and then maybe I could put, movie theater candy up here. I'm not that interested in that. The last thing it tells me to do is to uncheck the show regression line because we don't really know what that is yet, so we're not going to mess with that yet. And then finally we have to click plot, and I guess that's actually the only thing I left out of the instructions. So maybe I'll add that in there, uncheck regression line, and then I have to make sure to hit plot. Okay, so after I hit plot, I see my scatter plot. So I can see that they went down here from 40 to 140. For sugar, and then we went, what's it say, from 350 to 800, so we really didn't need to go all the way down to 100, but that's okay. And then we just plot all of these points. So I'm going to maybe talk about this one first. It looks like it's between, 40 and 60, probably around, 47 maybe, I don't know, something like that. Maybe 45, and then plot it with respect to the 350 that I see up here. So I'm somewhere around maybe 45, and up here, let's say 350. Okay, definitely doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just kind of estimating, just trying to get an idea. I can see I have another value in there at like say 44 and then 360, 370, something like that. So something that's a little bit less on the x-axis, a little bit less on the x-axis, and then a little bit higher on the y-axis. So maybe like right about there. Okay, and then I just continue to sketch in the rest of these points. So instead of showing you point by point how I do that for each of them, on your homework, I'm not going to actually ask you to sketch a scatter plot. I'm going to ask you to use this StatDisk output. So again, because why would you sketch it if you can use the computer output? But the really important thing that we do want to be able to do here is describe the relationship shown. So assuming we have the correct scatter plot here, again, I'm going to look up at the computer in order to verify that. We want to describe the distribution. Describe the relationship. So remember, there are 4 things we're trying to describe: the strength, the direction, the form, and unusual features. So form is the easiest thing to figure out. Does it look linear? Well, could I sketch a line through these data points and that line be pretty reasonable? I think so. I think especially without this point, I can already tell this kind of doesn't fit the pattern as much as I want it to. If I don't have that point, then I have kind of a pretty clear line here. And from looking at whether or not I can have a line, maybe I'll put my pencil up there to kind of see that line a little bit better, I can tell that the slope of that line would be positive, right? From left to right, it's headed up, okay? Or as I increase my x values, my y values are also increasing. That's positive. When they're both increasing, it gives us a positive direction, okay? The other thing that I'm supposed to be describing, let's see, I said it was positive and linear, and then the strength. So do the values fit a pretty tight pattern, or are they more loose? Is kind of what we're looking for here. And this is a very subjective description. It takes some practice to get used to describing these well. And in the next part, we're going to learn about the correlation coefficient that gives us a more objective description of strength. For now, I'm going to say these lines or these points are definitely not exactly in a straight line, but they're not all over the place either. So I'm going to call this moderate. Okay. All right. So we're going to describe the relationship shown. We're going to say the scatter plot shows a moderately strong. That was my strength, and now I want my direction, SDFU, remember? So strong, moderately strong, positive, linear pattern. I could say pattern, I could say association. Both of those things mean the same thing. And then my unusual features, I did notice that it looked like there is a possible outlier. Okay, let's remember what that value was. A possible outlier here, right? Here. Okay, so let's see. That value is just a little bit less than 80 and close to 800. So let's look at our list. What sugar was real close to 80? Oh, I think it's this, 79. That must be peanut M&M. 79, 790 would fit with that. 79 is just under 80. 790 is just under 800. So that must be peanut M&Ms. So there's a possible outlier with peanut M&Ms. Oops, sorry. And I'm going to phrase it as a point. Oops, yeah, 79, 790. 79 grams of sugar, 790 calories. Okay, so that's how we describe our association. In the next video, we're going to start part 2, and I will finish sketching the scatter plot for you to show you what that would look like.